What's going on, Whisper Nation? Welcome to another Mock Draft Monday. It's March 29th. Get ready for a 12-team Superflex half-point PPR with me, Johnny, and Big Travie. Let's do it.
Right here.
End of March, we got the draft coming up. We're mock drafting away. I can't wait to finally know where these rookies are going to actually be housed here pretty soon, Johnny. But how about you, man? How are you feeling right now and getting excited for the upcoming draft and NFL season?
Oh, I'm getting so amped. Every day we do a little bit more and more research, and I'm getting a picture of these teams, what they did last year, what they could be doing. Seeing these moves of the free agency has been wild. A little bit disappointing, I'd say, as well. But it's good because we're getting those pieces to fill in, so we get that overall big picture.
The picture's starting to come together.
Exactly.
Right? All the puzzle pieces. And Travie, how about our Packers, man? We didn't make a ton of moves, but we kept on to some of the pieces. Aaron Jones, I know we talk in every mock draft. We thought he was somewhere else. How are you feeling about the Packers right now?
Yeah, I still have to pinch myself that we signed him. We were so dead set that it wasn't going to happen, and now it's just readjusting to that reality now. And then watching them kind of whiff, as Johnny said, was some disappointment in free agency. You feel like the Packers, who were supposed to be in the market for a wide receiver, really didn't sign anybody.
Yeah.
So then you're like, okay, well, hopefully we'll draft him, but you can't really count on that with Green Bay. So we'll see. We could be rolling with the same exact wide receiving core as we've done for the last few years. And
a lot of wide receiver shakeups too. Not in Green Bay, but a lot around the season. We got Johnny Cardinals hometowner over there, just signed AJ Green, and a lot of wide receiver action. And actually, there's a ton of stuff. My boy Rashad Perriman is now getting Matt Stafford throwing in the ball. I'm excited about that. I'm excited to talk about all of the action in NFL, especially with you, Whisper Nation. So if you're joining us on YouTube, if you're joining us on Twitter or Facebook, welcome. Make sure you like and subscribe so you can catch the daily notifications coming your way, and also have an opportunity to join our mock drafts live. It's one of our favorite things to do every week, is to mock draft live with you. We do it every Monday right around 12:05 Pacific Standard Time, and we let those links out on Twitter. So make sure you follow us on Twitter, as well as like and subscribe on your social media platform of choice to catch all the good stuff coming your way every single day. Johnny, is there anything that people need to know before we get this mock draft started? I see you're here in third, got Travie in eighth. I'm at the end here in 12. We got the Cat's Pajamas joining us, the FB Therapist, Prime Time Mock. I love that specific name here. And Jay Blizzy, Whisper Nation champion, drafting alongside of us. We've got a couple more minutes before we'll get started. So if you want to grab that 1, 2, 6, 9, or 10 spot, go ahead, follow along on Twitter and jump into the sleeper room. We can draft along with you. Like I said, it's one of our favorite things to do. Johnny, anything that people need to know about this one, or anything you want to say before we get this bad boy started?
I tweeted out, or I put a link in the comments. So if anyone wants to join, we got a couple more seconds before that, as well as a reminder, half-point PPR, Superflex. So quarterbacks could be coming off the board a little bit early, but you never know. Whisper Nation is pretty smart. They usually wait. I think in this mock draft, I'm going to wait as long as possible. That's going to be my strategy. I'm going to reveal it now, so I don't take a lot of heat later.
In terms of drafting a quarterback?
Yeah, I'm going to wait. I'm going to do like normally it's been kind of wild because normally lately, and I say lately, and I say that in like the past year and a half, I've been kind of flirting with the strategy of taking quarterbacks earlier.
Yeah,
and just like feeling out that team. But today I'm going to try and grab those late guys, build up a nice solid foundation, see what I can do, and go from there.
Right on. Well, there's a lot of ways to pin this cat. I don't want to say skin this cat because I love my cats, and that's just a violent metaphor that we could really work out of our vernacular, but I haven't gotten it and have it yet. So plenty of ways to spin cat. I don't know if they like it spinning, but Travie, do you play in any Superflex leagues?
I am not in any. I'm not in any Superflex leagues, but it is a growing, vastly popular, demanded platform or style, I should say, that you play in. And so, yeah, we need to get on this and start getting out there with Whisper Nation and mock drafting more of it. But I have not played with anything with a QB premium like Superflex.
I haven't either. But I think why wouldn't it just be super fun? Like if you take the traditionalist sense away from it and you're just scoring points, creating opportunities for big plays, falling in love with your players.
Yeah.
Superflex seems like maybe a good route to go.
And it's like QB seems to be the one position where you're like, man, you're kind of more in love with a bunch of guys. I would say like you have a bunch of guys on your list more with QB. So it's kind of fun to get a super flex because you can kind of dabble in a couple different guys that you like, you know?
Yeah. I'm starting to come around to it and maybe start pushing that in some of the other leagues, maybe just for some consideration. Well, Whisper Nation, let us know about your Superflex leagues. Let us know about how you prefer to go about these drafts when you got 2 quarterback slots that you got to fill. Do you go early? Do you go late? Do you do it as a value-based and there's no point in reaching at all? Just grab the best value always. What's your strategy? Let us know. Love to hear about it.
Yeah.
Johnny, is there anything holding us back from getting this draft started now?
No, let's get it going. I think we waited
up.
long enough.
So it's another week. It's a new one here. Johnny, has your opinion changed at all on who should be going at the top of the draft board? Maybe not just 1-1, but in the top tier of selections.
No, actually, I think that it's still, well, I should say JT is an interesting one, right? Jonathan Taylor, that one's always been a question of all of our shows. And then I think the biggest, I mean, we talk about free agency moves, but kind of a head scratcher. And like, it was funny because Travis and I were talking about it when it happened. Travis was actually in disbelief, but when Marlon Mack got re-signed by the Colts, that was kind of like a little bit of a head scratcher and a low blow to fantasy owners because we thought he was out the door, man. We thought it was going to be the JT and, you know, Nyheim Hines would be as well sprinkled in there. But man, to have Marlon Mack come back, that certainly puts a damper on him being a top 3 back as far as drafting, right? Like, I still think that there's a reality Marlon Mack doesn't come back to full health. That is a chance. But
let me ask you about this with Jonathan Taylor, because Jonathan Taylor to me is like the sexy mystery box that's now emerging as I mean, he's a leg up of last year's CEH. I mean, last year's CEH, it was the first running back off the board, who we didn't think he was the most talented prospect coming to the draft, but he was the first running back selected, and CEH was always a talented guy coming out of college. And he went to the Kansas City Chiefs. So he had a lot of excitement. They knew we were going to stack that box. And it was a little bit of that mystery box flavor, right? Like, he could be so much. He could be so good. Is Jonathan Taylor actually that much better than a Dalvin Cook or a Christian McCaffrey? Or are we really just getting excited by the unknown? Are we getting excited by the mystery box nature of it? And the quote I always like to say, it's like, oh my God, Dalvin Cook is a locked-in elite RB1. But Jonathan Taylor is a mystery box. He just might be an elite locked-in RB1. It's like, but shouldn't you go to the?
I think that's a great take. I think that's a great take. I don't know if I stole Johnny's question there, but I think that's a great take, Austin, to like kind of look at it. That's where you're basically drafting him at excitement right now. We saw what he did to close out the year. We know he was like over the last 4 weeks was the best running back in football and in fantasy football. So we know like he can hit that ceiling. And I equated a little bit to Derrick Henry, who a couple years ago had a great closeout to the year. And the following year, we rode that momentum, drafting him high, and he paid off by becoming the elite running back in the first round that we wanted him to be. What's good about Taylor is Taylor can catch the ball. He dropped 1 ball last year. And for all the knock that he hadn't caught a lot of balls in college, he came in and really caught, 95% of his passes. So that's something to keep an eye on, not something that's a big part of Derrick Henry's game for comparison's sake. But I do think that Jonathan Taylor is the mystery box, as Austin so astutely put, because he could really hit a ceiling of number 1 overall, and we would not be surprised.
But then you say, should you really take Jonathan Taylor over a Nick Chubb? When it comes down to it, like if Jonathan Taylor performed metrically as good as Nick Chubb has for the last 3 years, and you drafted Jonathan Taylor, you're pretty stoked, right? But I think it's this idea that Jonathan Taylor is going to be Nick Chubb plus.
Well, and I think that this is where we can kind of revert to the whole go with your guy, because I really feel like there is a very good argument that, the top 6 guys that went off the board here, top 7, because Nick Chubb will include that. And then, I mean, you can even go down to Ezekiel Elliot and Aaron Jones. You wouldn't be surprised if any of those guys finished as the number 1 overall running back. So when you have an ability like that, then it's like, okay, go with your favorite guy. go with your favorite, the one that you really enjoy watching and that you're really rooting for, because at that point, that's what's going to bring you. This is a game after all, and it needs to. You have to be excited about it. I mean, we can all have our particular guy that we think, could emerge from there, and there will be obviously guys that don't meet expectations, and we can talk about what factor those might be. But realistically, like as of right now, we could all make an argument that the top 9 running backs could finish as the top RB.
Yeah, that's a really good point, Johnny, and I'm really glad that you brought up that component of going with your guy. I have to remind myself that every year, do your research, right? Listen to the Fantasy Whispers, buy the draft kit, get the extra knowledge to separate you from the field, and develop your own tiers. And then when you're making your actual selection, though, if it's a hairline difference between a guy on your favorite team and a guy maybe who's predicted just slightly better and plays for a team you can't stand watching, I'd say do yourself a favor and ignore that hairline difference and grab the guy that you want, because if your prediction is just slightly off and the guy that you love is actually the superior back in the end of it all, you're really going to have a better time. You're not going to enjoy selecting the guy you thought would be better on the team you hate watching actually underperform and the guy that you love just went off. But in reverse, you're still going to appreciate it. Like if you end up going with the guy you love and he doesn't pop off, you're still excited to watch your team play and your favorite player on your own squad. And there's so many moves. You just need to stay active and energized. And I think having guys that you are genuinely you love watching and connecting with are just going to keep you involved in your league and maybe make you pay a little bit more attention to the waiver wire or take a trade a little bit more seriously to give you an edge.
I love that, and it actually makes me think of Johnny last year in our league of record. Johnny decided he was going to go for his gut and play to get guys that he knew he would have fun watching. And is it any coincidence that Johnny went the deepest he's ever gone in the playoffs? Probably coincidence, but I think that it's an awesome story. I think that you actually went with your gut on something in our league of record, and it paid off in a big way. And you came up just short, not to bring up an old wound there, but like that's an awesome feat to hang your hat on. I had fun watching fantasy football, and I played really well. Metrically. So
that's a great point. And I don't want to put Game Time here into the spotlight, but it is to give him praise on this one. And, Johnny, like there's the inside joke that goes on of like how incredible of a data analysis you are and helping other people with their own teams. But the joke has always been in our league of record that you're better at putting other people's teams together than you have been at putting your own team together. And I think so much of that comes to the point that Travis just highlighted with you, in that you do this insane breakdown and know where the whole field lies. You got research going back for years. It's ridiculous. It's wild. And then, though, from your own decisions, it's like making those hairline choices that you've done the deep analysis for. And it's in some ways set you back. And then this year, you still did all that knowledge, but you made your selections a little bit differently, and you had more success than you've ever had in our league of record. Like your team not only performed, but it was scary and it was dominant and it was nimble and it kept evolving. And yeah, you were the case to study last year, and it was cool because you did have such a tangible switch in your strategy.
Yeah, it was interesting because coming in, I almost wanted to challenge myself, right? And that's kind of when you kind of really have fun with fantasy football, because you start to try to understand it and from different perspectives and realize different ways that you can take advantage of the game within the game, right? There's a bunch of tactics that you can play, and it's fun when you start realizing what some of those tactics can be and how you can use them, and then how you can get yourself out of certain situations when you start looking at the data and stuff. But it always goes back to having fun with your players, because if they don't perform, then that at least you put all that research and stuff, like it should work out. And if it doesn't, it doesn't, and that happens, and you're more accepting of it. That was
I don't want to sound like the soccer dad, but it's like, we don't always just play to win, we're playing to actually have fun with this thing. That's why we keep playing, at least, and we keep coming back to, obviously Austin talked about the stories with the players. We get behind those storylines, and when those storylines are fun, when you get behind that and they're doing well, I mean, it's just a beautiful marriage. So it's just a reminder that, like, yes, at the end of the day, you want to beat your friends and you want to win some cash if it's available, but you want to have some fun, man. And that's why I keep playing, and I know that's why you guys are also keep playing too.
Dude, and I wanted to piggyback there off of Johnny's point of when you do all of this research and you make a pick, we say it all the time, you can lose on draft day. You can't win on draft day.
Right.
You have to keep it going. And if you've done all the research and you make predictions based on guys' role on the team, their spark outputs, whatever it is, it's going to then be replaced with actual data. And if the actual data that's coming in doesn't line up with your predictions, you're going to know that you were off at that point in the beginning, and you're going to know that a pivot from what your strategy was is now called for, and you'll have more confidence in that pivot than you would be if you didn't know what's going on. It's not like, oh, I did all this data and this research, and then the actuality was different than what I expected. It's like, no, that's good. You had an understanding of what it could be, and then it was different, and you can make adjustments from that. And I think that helped separate Johnny last year with such a successful season.
For sure. I mean, that my biggest case in point would be the DeAndre Swift and just sticking on that, right? Trusting in the research that I did, trusting in how good of a running back he is, knowing all of that, right? And just believing that eventually Matt Patricia should get his stuff together and realize that DeAndre Swift is the best running back they have, not Adrian Peterson. Unfortunately, it wasn't to the full extent that it could have been, but still, it makes fantasy football a lot more enjoyable when you're not just relying on the wins and losses. Because if you do, that can drive you to not like this game and not have a lot of fun.
No, and you have to find other things that you enjoy outside of your own record in fantasy football, because this game is an emotional beast and with big highs and really big lows. So you got to find other things to help anchor yourself too. And one of those is the players. And we've now gotten 3.5 rounds through after Big Travie just took Allen Robinson in the 4th. For our audio-only listeners, I want to get in a recap up to this point just before we get too far down the list. So we started off the draft at the 1-1 spot with Dalvin Cook, Saquon Barkley to follow. Game time selected Christian McCaffrey, and then Alvin Kamara off the board, followed by Jonathan Taylor, Derrick Henry, Devontae Adams, Nick Chubb, Tyreek Hill, Ezekiel Elliott, Aaron Jones, Patrick Mahomes to close out the first. Second began with Patrick Mahomes' tight end, Travis Kelce, then Josh Allen, Josh Jacobs, Michael Thomas, DeAndre Hopkins, J.K. Dobbins, Joe Mixon, Cam Akers, DK Metcalf, A.J. Brown, Miles Sanders, and DeAndre Swift closed out the second round. The third began with Jacksonville running back James Robinson, Austin Eckler, Antonio Gibson, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, Stephon Diggs, Mike Evans, Justin Jefferson, Chris Carson, Julio Jones, George Kittle, Calvin Ridley. In the third round ended with David Montgomery. I started the fourth here with Melvin Gordon, Kareem Hunt off the board, Kenny Golladay, Lamar Jackson, Allen Robinson, Chris Godwin, Amari Cooper, Keenan Allen, quarterback Kyler Murray was taken off the board, and Johnny Game Time Hicks just picked Najee Harris to close out his fourth round selection. Then Kenyon Drake, Adam Thielen rounded out the fourth round. That's 4 rounds in. We got 13 here to go. And if you're tuning in on YouTube, make sure you hit the like and subscribe button to get the notifications coming your way. We do our mock drafts pretty much every single Monday, and we will be leading us up to the mock draft marathon, our signature event in August. Travie, Johnny, I wanted to ask now, we have done these for a couple of months. We're starting to see the ADP shift. How do you feel like the ADP is stacking up right now in terms of what it will be in a couple of months in August? Is it kind of fair right now? Is it still really off? Do you have a strong opinion about that as of now, Travis?
I think there's some things I'd like to see shake out. I think I wonder if Jonathan Taylor, we talked about at the top of the show, falls a little bit just because of the Marlon Mack signing. I wonder if that will settle into something, more later first round. Maybe I'm hoping for that as well. Ezekiel Elliott's another interesting case. Aaron Jones, both of those guys at the end of the first round. I'm very interested to see, as we see Dak Prescott's health, as we see what the Packers do on offense in the draft, how that's going to shake out as far as ADP is concerned. So there are some things that I am keeping a close eye on, but I think for the most part, I thought that maybe those running backs, the cluster of second-year guys that are at the end of the second, might push more up to the top of the second. But I don't know. We still need to get those puff pieces that are famous in the offseason. Like, oh, this guy busted off a run in training camp. No, he looks so great. Guys are making one-handed catches, and then they're training camp all-stars now. So we still got a lot of that stuff to happen. But I think that
they're stoinks, dude. Their stoinks are going to go to the moon, dude.
It's funny you bring that up. We talked last year when the COVID offseason was kicking in and we didn't have as many examples to take a look at. And we go back to other years, and I'm thinking of some standout camp performers. And sometimes it's just hogwash and it's silliness, but sometimes, like Darren Waller or Tyreek Hill, I know you and I remember that one personally, Travie. Like sometimes those camp success stories are actually origin stories of a pretty impressive career as well. It's
right. And then the difference between the training camp, and I know what you're talking about with Tyreek Hill, and actual preseason action, right? When we see a preseason game, that's actually a little bit even more of a even more tasty nugget than the training camp stuff, because you're actually seeing them in live action. Now, it's not as good as regular season, but it is, something that you really like. So I think that Tyreek Hill one all the time.
His excitement in his voice, how pumped he gets from seeing those nuggets.
Yeah, well, I mean, we didn't get that last year, right? And we were wondering up until, I don't know, maybe a week or two before the season if we'd have a regular season. They canceled preseason. And so we're going to, the NFL's got a market, a research, example by last year of what to do with this, pandemic. And we're getting in better ways in that as a world right now, hopefully. So that being said, I think that getting preseason this year is going to be another advantage that we used to have, just a year and a half ago or 2 years ago.
Well, let me ask you guys this, because the NFL is going to an 18-game season, and so therefore they're knocking off.
It's 17, yeah.
Yes. Yeah, 7. Yeah.
It'll be an 18-week, but 17 game. Yeah.
Right. So they're knocking off one or two preseason games? So do you think that, teams will play their starters at all in the preseason games?
Yeah, I think what we'll get is, instead of the weeks 1 and 2 of preseason where it's barely any playing time, we're going to get those 2 weeks that we get are going to be more like weeks 3 and 4 in the preseason has been in the past, where they're tuning up the starters in 3, and then we're going half snaps in 4. That's what I would imagine happens, or some balance of the both of them. But
it's a good question. I think that what I've heard the commentary from veteran starters is that it does take a little bit of real game practice to get in the swing of what's going on. And you can make up for that distance in the early season. Tom Brady, we were calling the Bucs a picturesque first-round exit there for a while, or at least I was internally. And veterans understand you develop over the course of the season, and it's all about getting right and getting healthy at the right time. So you can use those initial games as a little bit of a training period, but I don't think anybody really wants to. And I think you'll end up seeing just that last game or that second to last game, if it's only even 2. Like, they'll just take one game and they'll play a full half, maybe 3 quarters. And I think that no matter where it's at, even if you had just had one preseason game, you would always end up seeing your starters play at least a full half. That practice is too valuable.
Austin, I wanted to ask you your strategy. Well, I guess you've already kind of shown it, but what was your strategy coming into this Superflex? We've got the Cat's Pajamas saying last year was my first time playing in a Superflex league, and I played in 3 of them. I found it's a better way, or it's better to go way early on QB, which is something you just did, Austin. You were the first team to take a QB off the board. Was that going to be your strategy no matter what, taking that end?
Yeah, it wasn't going to be. I was willing to do it. Oftentimes, when you're at the end of a draft, you got to zig when everyone else zags. And I wanted to make sure I wasn't playing second fiddle with my team. I didn't want to have a less shiny version of Johnny's team, where I took a less attractive running back than a Christian McCaffrey just to try to keep pace. So I saw Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce as two true elites that I had access to. And I was just looking at the other players, and I was like, I don't dislike anybody there in the second round, but the people who were standing out, Josh Jacobs, Joe Mixon, even like Miles Sanders to me, I don't know if I love them that much more than David Montgomery or Melvin Gordon, where I was able to get my running backs there in the 3rd and 4th round. And so because of that availability, that's why I chose to top heavy it a little bit with a Travis Kelce and a Patrick Mahomes. and just kind of waiting to see what value and caliber of players were available to me when it got to the end of the round.
Big payoff there, I think, in rounds 3 and 4 with Montgomery and Gordon to just be there for you.
Mm.
I had to double take. I would have taken Montgomery over Carson. I guess I just didn't look at the players correctly, and I missed him.
Love that.
Yeah.
And Austin scooped him up, dude.
I know, dude. Just
Who the
threw
fuck
it
is
right
kind
in
of
the
going at
face.
the end, right? Sometimes like my strategy usually at the ends is like grab the guy that fell and then reach for the next guy you want. Because it's going to be 24 picks till you get one. I like drafting at the cap ends.
Yeah, Travis won't.
But I also like drafting in the middle too. I think you can do the best value-based draft going in the middle. And I might like drafting at the end. But my most successful teams have always been the ones I draft in the middle in.
Yeah, it's like it's good in theory, you think, but then you get there and you're like, oh, I ended up, well, especially in some of the leagues we play in together, it's like some of the guys just, they go for their guys. And then you're sitting there going like, I really thought I could wait on this guy and he's not there. So
or on the other side, when you are reaching for your dude, and I'm like, all right, I'm going to grab a guy here at the start of the 4th that's projected in the middle of the 5th, but I really believe in him and he's not coming back to me. You're stringing a lot of belief on a guy, right? Like if you keep playing a value-based draft and guys pass on proven performers because they have belief in somebody else, their belief is your advantage because beliefs are, we believe in wild things. Just take a look through human history. So fantasy football is zero exception to that. So let everybody go off. I'm watching the documentary on Netflix right now, Into the Storm, and people love to go into that storm with some shoddy running backs or some weird wide receivers that they just have a hankering for. And let their hankering be your success.
Yes. And unfortunately, sometimes it works out for those people, and then they feel like they're, proven right by their tactics. And
they're proven right, and then the next year they go and draft Rashad Penny in the 5th round because they're just feeling themselves on that one. So it happens.
Unbelievable. I always draft a robust RB. I'm not talking about me.
You always draft a robust RB, or you always draft robust RB?
A robust
You always
RB.
make sure you get somebody like Monte Ball or
I don't think I did draft Ball. I mean, I was a believer in Rashad. I was a believer in Rashad Penny, and that was not a good penny to line myself with. But hey, you win some, you lose some. I can't be 100%.
No, you can't. You can't be 100%. Not in this game. Not in professional gambling either. There's just not possible.
That's why it's gambling. Let's see. What do you guys think about the wide receiver situation in Miami? They got Will Fuller that's over there now. We've got Devontae Parker, who's doing his weird Devontae Parker thing all the time. Tua is now the quarterback. What are you expecting out of Miami this year from the pass catching perspective?
It's going to be interesting to see. Tua should be capable of doing it. It looks like the Dolphins are ready to keep going with Tua, the way they've traded picks out, the way they've invested in the weapons around him.
Love it.
It's Tua time, it seems to be. I think Parker is probably set up the best to retain the value that he has. He's turned way more into a possession wide receiver than any kind of deep threat that Will Fuller is going to be. So I don't think that Will Fuller comes in and takes really much of anything from Devontae Parker's game. And then there's this, mystery box, to steal your term, Austin, with Will Fuller, because now we get to say, okay, what's the possibility here? We probably get him at a pretty big discount because he's going to Tua, he's going to Miami, and he's never stayed healthy. So you've got all these factors that work into Fuller's, baked into his ADP. I'm kind of excited. I'd like to see some training camp stuff to see chemistry between Tua and Will Fuller. But if Fuller can just, or if Tua can just handle the deep ball to Fuller, we've seen Will Fuller basically tilt the field and tilt fantasy football matchups his whole career when healthy and when on the field.
Is Tua ever going to be that guy who opens it up, or is he more of a modern game manager, Johnny? What's your take on Tua? Because I remember you talking how accurate he was and how intelligent he was, and now that we've seen a little bit of action from him, has that changed at all? What do you think he's going to do for the Dolphins and fantasy next year?
I think he could do big things. Now, like, do I think he could be the number one overall quarterback? I don't see that. But I like the moves that the Dolphins are making. We'll see if they add another running back. In the draft if they get a big splash there. But I love the Will Fuller move. If you look at what Miami had, they didn't have that last year. Like, they wanted to have that, but they were having to use Mike Gesicki as that like deep guy. And it's like, let's be honest, like we all love Mike Gesicki. He's super athletic, but he shouldn't be your deep guy. Now they went out and got an actual deep guy in Will Fuller, who like is used to catching big bombs and making big plays. And that's going to open up the field so much for guys like Devontae Parker. They can't double team him. And he is like, that's the thing is like they were also using him on a lot of deep routes. But like, because he is fast, but like he's a big bodied wide receiver. Let's bully, like you can bully those cornerbacks, and he has the ability to. Dang it! I was really hoping CeeDee Lamb was going to fall to me, and my team was going to be so dynamite. Anyway, getting back to he's really accurate. He's really fun to watch. He has that scramble ability. I think Tua could be a very nice. Flex play. I wouldn't be surprised if he ends up being a guy you pick up. Maybe you don't draft, in your draft in like a standard 12-team league, but he could be a guy that you end up picking up off of waivers, and he ends up being a nice fill-in for quite a few weeks, or ends up being a weekly starter because he has the weapons now to sustain. Yeah. He just has to take the jump. From a rookie quarterback to a second year, and we'll see if he can do that. That's a big question, but I think he can.
Speaking of fill-ins and the NFC East, Travis, I wanted to ask you about the New England Patriots, the AFC East, excuse me. And Damian Harris was just taken by the Cat Pajamas, and I made the mistake last year of picking up Damian Harris and Sony Michel, thinking I had a pretty solid RB2, and hey, I kind of actually did. One over the other of them got you like 9 or 10 points most weeks. But you and I talked about this specific dynamic, and it helped me come to the conclusion that volume is important, but explosive volume is really what you want, and why Kareem Hunt and Harris, even though Damian Harris might be getting more volume, but the explosive volume Kareem Hunt gets is more opportunistic from a fantasy lens. So I wanted to just ask you kind of about the Patriots in general. We saw him do, I think, some pretty Bill Belichick-esque moves, and I don't even hate them, with Jonnu Smith and Hunter Henry trying to go back to that stacked tight end combo and the island of misfit toys at the wide receiver position. They just brought over Nelson Aguilar. They were dealing with Darius Byrd and N'Keal Harry and the sad story that is, and all the things going on there. I don't think any of us are super stoked from a fantasy perspective. Are you? Do you disagree with that? And then what do you think about from an NFL side? Is this back to Bellatrix? Is there any meat on the bone over there in New England this year, Travi?
It'll be interesting to see what they do, Austin, with the running back room. I mean, it's always been one that keeps 4 guys in there. Johnny, maybe you know this. Do we have a status on Rex Burkhead with them? Like, did they re-sign Rex?
Oh, Mr. Birkenstock.
That would just be interesting to monitor. They did re-sign James White. So we're going to have the James White, Damian Harris, Sony Michel combo, and then we'll have to see what they do in the draft. I do think that some of these moves could really benefit the running game, right? We're talking about 2 tight ends that they brought in. I think they went and got the offensive lineman back from the Raiders. So you've got some other pieces here that they're trying to get the running game going. They're committing to Cam again, which means that tells you they're going to be a run-heavy team again. Yeah. So, yeah, I think a mix-and-match RB2 situation. Whoa. Like that you said, Austin, that you got out of them with a little bit more upside this year is actually possible out of that backfield, because if the linemen and the tight ends work for them, you could be seeing some improvement in the run game for the Patriots.
I think Cam. We have to realize how much Cam threw last year. Like, Cam threw the ball quite a bit, more than you think. Actually, I have the stats right here.
Randomly. How do you know how much I think that he threw?
Well, you said you're saying that you thought that they were going to be a run-heavy team.
They are a run-heavy team. I think that they're a run-heavy team.
I think that the moves, though, that they made would indicate that they understood what Cam needed to be successful at throwing, and that they can't be a run-heavy team because it doesn't work. And so they went out and got pieces, that, like a Hunter Henry, like a Joe Smith, like a Nelson Aguilar, who can create separation, and you're going to see them actually be more successful throwing the ball this year. And I mean, it's not to take away that and say that, they're not going to run the ball at all. I'm not trying to say that, but to Travis's point, like, they have a lot of running backs. I don't know if I want a part of that situation. Like, they were even rumored to be going after Uncle Lenny, even though they had all those toys. They still wanted Uncle Lenny. So that scares me right there. But I do think Damian Harris, he does show something differently and something more special than some of these other running backs. But yeah, I think it's a situation I'm just going to stay away from, to be honest with you.
I'm staying away from the Patriots too. And if they had gone to Leonard Fournette, that actually would have gotten me a little bit excited, because I'd be like, maybe they have a guy who can break through and really own that running back spot. As of now, they don't. I think they have Damian Harris, who's the best of the bunch. He'll get 12 touches. He'll do good 4.5 yards per carry with those, get you 50 yards and 5 or 6 touchdowns to close out the year, which is going to be good enough when you need a desperation start, but you're really not going to be super excited about it most of the season. I, too, will be avoiding the Patriots. It's a better bet to make than most. Bet on the Patriots for real football. Avoid them in fantasy, and you're happy more times than you're not.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
dang it, Austin.
Taking 3 quarterbacks over here is really
unbelievable.
Really messing me up, man.
I love Jalen Hurts this year from a fantasy perspective. I hope he stays lower down in the ADPs. I think he deserves to be way higher, though, and I think someone's going to get high on the hype.
Hold on. I don't understand what the Eagles are doing. Like, what they have the ultimate case of, they just got extremely lucky that everyone was like, you guys are dumb, and trying to, like, get another quarterback in there, and they did them a favor. And not allowing them to, like, I guess they were, I mean, other teams could have been like, oh, we'll let them make that mistake. They have an awesome quarterback in Jalen Hurts, but if you want to trade up for another quarterback, be my guest. But I think, like, they really got lucky in that move didn't happen, because I'm with you, Austin. Like, this guy's exciting. He's electrifying. I get it. He's not traditional in the sense of, like, what Philadelphia is used to, and their pure drop back. I mean, Donovan McNabb, he did scramble, but I mean, we need to get Philly Chelsea back on the show, because she'll tell you firsthand, like, they wanted him to be more of a drop back passer, and, like, that was what they were doing. They were having him drop back more and more, and saying don't scramble as much. And so, I mean, they did have Michael Vick, I guess, so there goes that theory. So I don't. Some things but I'm just saying, I don't understand what their problem is with Jalen Hurts. Why don't they see the beauty that they have in Jalen Hurts?
I think some people definitely do, right? But then the question of they're torn in some regards. Maybe that's coming from a variable we in the public don't have access to. Maybe there's something going on behind the scenes. Maybe they do want more of a statuesque, standard, traditional quarterback. I don't know why you would, when he's got 2 300-yard games and 2, 3, 4, 5 games last year, and that last one he didn't even play. So I'm just personally really excited for what Jalen Hurts brings. I don't think we totally know. It was such a small sample size last year. Maybe the coaches are concerned about something. But I think we talked earlier about which players we expect to be jumping up in ADP. I think it's somebody in your league is going to go way early on Jalen Hurts. The upside is just too tempting. And the mystery box appeal there is just through the roof. People are going to think that you've got a Lamar Jackson mixed with a Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah, you know who's a mix with Patrick Mahomes? This guy right here. Get me on the bandwagon, baby. Zack Wilson. Let's go.
Good segue into the draft conversation we got coming up. Johnny, you're obviously excited about Zack Wilson. What players right now are you looking at the most, and then what players are maybe team dependent? We know the role that they end up having because of the team they land with can really change the course of fantasy trajectory. Are there any players right now that you got a particular eye on, or you hope they land in a specific spot?
Well, Zack Wilson, yeah, I'm really interested to see just because he's such an interesting prospect to me.
Yeah.
And I'm glad I don't have the question. Like, if it were the Cardinals and we had to make this pick, I would be sweating it because then it's like a little bit more at risk. But I'm just excited for the upside that Zack Wilson has shown. Travis and I were talking about his pro day before we went live. And I want to go back and watch it. But I'm just really excited. I have seen some tape on him. He looks like he's really excited. Once again, going back to what we were talking about at the top of the hour, watching and seeing these players and finding that joy of being like, wow, this guy's a little bit different and he's really fun to watch and he's exciting to watch. And it's that mystery box, right? Now, granted, I will say, like, I did screw this mock draft. I was doing so great. And then in this 9th round, I was like, should I take Tom Brady or Jalen Hurts there? And then I was like, oh, maybe I can squeak out one more round before I draft a quarterback. That ended up like kind of screwing me. But I wanted to talk about Zack Wilson on the show. So I was like, what the heck? I'll pull the trigger and get him on because I know that I'm a big fan. Travis is a big fan of him. But yeah, a lot of these guys I'm really intrigued about, top of the, like the Jamar Chase and a little bit because I want the hype to come down a little bit because I think the people's hypes are way, way too high. Like my biggest gripe right now is Jamar Chase. Do I think he's going to be fantastic? I do, but I think we're a little bit too high on and realizing that, because Justin Jefferson did so well last year, that automatically means that Jamar Chase is going to do well like that. It's like that history doesn't generally happen. Like Justin Jefferson put up a stat line that only Odell Beckham Jr. had ever done. Like that's it. Those are the only 2 rookie wide receivers that have ever done what happened. And so it's like, I think a lot of people are really hyped on that.
At the same time, though, like, and Austin said this the last couple of years too, like the league is changing and we're seeing the wide receivers have to get ready faster almost and have to adapt faster. And so that we actually have seen rookies kind of bend that curve a little bit, the learning curve a little bit and kind of get back into form or get to form quicker. So
do they bend it like Beckham though?
Sorry, John. What'd you say?
Do they bend it like Beckham though?
Yeah. Odell Beckham, yeah. No, but I think that you mentioned Jefferson, but also like T. Higgins, like was a guy that kind of broke out a little bit last year. And there were other flashes of guys, and I'm really excited for a lot of the second-year guys. As much flack as Jerry Jeudy got, he put up some impressive rookie numbers and did some impressive things. He should have a really nice second year, depending on what happens in Denver. So a lot of things that are there, and damn it, Austin. Taking Henry Ruggs.
I like Henry Ruggs this year.
Hold on. How is Austin in the 12th spot and he's just sniping all these guys from us? This is unbelievable.
He's manifested it, dude. He knew what
and then he gets Chuba Herbert. Talk about another guy I'm really excited about seeing where he goes, Austin, that you were asking. Chuba Herbert.
Chuba.
He is Chuba. Yes, thank you. He is someone, there is a lot of smoke around him saying that he might be a draft
around him.
Yeah.
Like toking it up or what?
No, I'm just, no,
advantage of that.
I mean, it could be, maybe.
Policy.
Yeah, maybe. No, I'm just saying that there are a lot of NFL scouts and rumors that he actually might be like this year's CEH surprise, like, wow, he went as the first running back off the board. There are rumors it could be him. I'm excited to see if it is.
Dude, and that's such an exciting thing with the draft coming up. Like everything changes. And I think it's a good thing to set the listeners up right now to know that we're just getting hyped on what we have available. That information is going to dramatically change as soon as they land on a team. If they go to a team that has no running back ahead of them, like choo-choo, pump that hype train up. If they go ahead and they land in a team that's got such an established guy ahead and maybe a backup, like, in a Minnesota situation or something like that, then you're like, I'm really steering clear in a redraft league in this. So I'm just excited to see what comes up. Guys that we're really hyped on, all of a sudden you might be pumping the brakes. guys who you really aren't considering too much find themselves in an ideal position, and you're now really bumping them up a few rounds in your draft board. And to your point earlier, Johnny, knowing what you're predicting before that new information comes in is so important to help you then see how far off your predictions are from the reality that ensues, which helps you make even better decisions in the moment. It's like that Dwight D. Eisenhower quote, like, plans are useless, but planning is everything. Like what you do on draft day might completely deviate from what you did planning to get to that moment. But that planning is what educated you on the entire board. And then when the reality sets in, you already have that understanding. So detouring from the plan is actually what the smart thing to do would be, because you put in the planning ahead of time.
Yep. 100%.
It's a long way of saying like and subscribe to the Fantasy Whisperer to make sure you catch the daily content coming your way every day to keep you ahead of the rest, especially in your own league, because it's fun to beat your friends.
Fire.
Guys, we're coming to the end of our draft here at this mock draft, and I'm going to make my last pick here, but make sure you hang around because we'll do our infamous draft grades. Myself, Game Time, and Big Trav will break down ours, let us know who did the best, and then we'll go and run through the rest of Whisper Nation's teams.
You're going to get your boy Sammy Watkins there? He's available.
Oh my God. Actually, I think Sammy Watkins could actually do some pretty exciting stuff over here. Yeah, I do, as I do always, and as I win this debate with you every year. So, sure.
Hey, week one. He's going to be fire, bro. Week one. You won't, dude.
I started him in our Dynasty League last year. Both last 2 years, I've benefited from that first week volcano that Sammy Watkins is known as.
Hey, you won't do it again for the third year in a row, dude. You won't.
I probably will, actually, and I will probably do well again, and I will probably make the championship for a third straight year. So, yeah, that'll be fun. And we'll call right now. Yeah, I'll probably start Sammy Watkins. Well, I did get Brandon Ayuk this year, too, in that trade. So we'll have to take another look. But, guys, we did it. We're here at the end. Mock Draft Whisper Nation. Thanks for hanging along here with us. I didn't get a chance to run down the rest of the picks. Please forgive me. I'll do better next time. But we'll get all the picks done now here on this side of it. So before you ask others to do it, you should do it yourself. I'll go ahead and lead off on my team here. Is that all good here? I'll start off with the last spot. All right. Yeah. I was drafting in the 12th position, and I went with Patrick Mahomes, first QB off the board. It's a Superflex league, so we got 2 QBs. I didn't see another elite option. Tyreek Hill, Devontae Adams were both gone. Those are my 2 favorite wide receiver picks, and none of the running backs available really gave me that separation that I was looking for. Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce both do, and I was just taking my chances that I'd have a voluminous running back or wide receiver available to me on the turn, and I am pleased to find out I was. David Montgomery and Melvin Gordon I like better this year than I did last year. Melvin Gordon doesn't have to deal with Phillip Lindsay anymore. He's gone. Melvin Gordon actually looked pretty good, and he is still just 27 years old, 215 pounds, 6'1" running back. I like his chances. I think that Denver will be better this year too. And David Montgomery finally showed us what David Montgomery truthers have been hoping for since he was drafted. Such a touted prospect coming out in last year, just to finish with as many 20-point games in fantasy as he did in PPR. I mean, heck, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 games in a row of 20-plus points to close out the year, and you expect them to be just as good, maybe better than they were last year. It is the Bears, though, so you can never get your expectations too high, but it is what it is. Moving on, I picked up Odell Beckham and DJ Chark, my 2 top wide receivers. These are technical number ones that have upside but have had a down year last year, and they definitely have some question marks, which is why they were still available there in the 5th round. But I'm going for upside here, going for opportunity, which I expect both DJ Chark and Odell to have. Odell Beckham is a little bit more of the question mark. He might have Jarvis Landry eat into that number 1 role, which is why I just hedged my bet and picked him up there in the 8th. We saw Baker Mayfield and that Browns offense start gelling a little bit better at the end of the year. And similar to how we saw the Packers 2 years ago get better, more on page with their quarterback and their coach, I think that their quarterback and their coach in Cleveland are going to gel better, and we'll see a more efficient pass attack out of Cleveland this year, despite still being a run-first team. I think you can see some more excitement coming up for the Browns. So I picked up Jarvis Landry there. Ronald Jones as well, just as another running back who could have a real role on the Super Bowl champs if we'll see what happens with the rest of that backfield. Jalen Hurts is my 2nd quarterback. I love the upside on that, especially the value position I got him in. Jerry Jeudy, 2nd-year wide receiver, and Henry Ruggs, 2nd-year wide receiver. both with a lot of upside, and they could be faders. We'll see how they perform, but there's a real reason to think that they're going to take big jumps this year and be very valuable pieces to your fantasy football team. Chuba Herbert, as Johnny and Travis had mentioned, drafted my one and only rookie there in the 12th, and Jamison Crowder, who is just a slept-on performer every year. It's going to be he's still just 27 years old, still should expect to do his thing over there in New York. I like him as my 5th wide receiver, or whatever that was.
Austin, this team, if the Jalen Hurts thing hits, this team is going to wreck. You know what I mean? It is just ridiculously stacked at the top. And then I love what you did with the trio of running backs, basically value running backs, but really hard hitting value running backs as far as Dave Montgomery and what Ronald Jones can do when they give him volume. So for me, I think this was perfectly built as a top heavy team with huge upside in your super flex and big upside with the running backs. And then, you mentioned the upside with Odell and DJ Shark. That's huge upside there in 5 and 6, especially OBJ. I think OBJ is going to be even more of a discount than he was last year. And I think that might be the wrong line of group think that we're at with OBJ, and I think we're actually going to see OBJ kind of bounce back in a big way. And I thought I just really like this team. I think it's well put together.
I saw this wild stat. I can't quote it exactly. I love this team, by the way, Austin. Just FYI, I think this is actually one of your best teams that you've drafted, because it's extremely high upside, but I think the floor is very, very high as well. But it was interesting, and I have to vet this because I don't know if it's true or not. But it said Larry Fitzgerald over the last 2 years has had more top 10 finishes than OBJ. I have to vet that, but
I wouldn't doubt it. I mean, he's been injured a lot of the last couple of years, and Baker hasn't played exactly well, but we'll just see. I'm excited to see that.
It's just one of those weird things. I don't expect that to continue. I'm on the bandwagon that I think OBJ will bounce back, and he is a value, but I just think it's one of those quirky things I chuckled at when I read it.
All right, I'm going to move on here and take over the mic. I went from the 8th position, took Nick Chubb, wanted to stay running back heavy if I could, if the draft allowed it. And so Nick Chubb was sitting there. Primetime mock came in a little late, so it auto-drafted Devontae Adams. I think I actually lucked out because I don't know if Chubb would have been there. Got Chubb, then DeAndre Hopkins, Chris Carson to do an RB, heavy build at the top 3.
Would you have went Zeke there? Would you have went Zeke if Chubb was gone?
Maybe. It's an interesting. I don't know. I don't deal in hypotheticals though. So no, I'm just kidding. I went with what I went with here. Chris Carson. I really didn't see David Montgomery there, but kudos to Austin there because it fell down to him. Allen Robinson, I think, with signing the franchise tender with Andy Dalton there, I think maybe he's not better than Trubisky, but he should still be able to get Allen Robinson the ball, and he should still see a grip of targets. I wanted Russell Wilson here, but Cat's Pajamas took him 3-4 picks before me. So I pivoted and went with Mark Andrews, knowing that I could probably wait on Dak Prescott, which is exactly what happened. I think people are still sleeping on Dak's recovery, but I think Dak is just as poised as last year to just rip the ball as soon as he's back healthy. And you're talking about a guy who's had 6 or more rushing touchdowns, I believe, in 3 seasons. So Tyler Lockett, I think this is a great value for Tyler Lockett. This is my 3rd wide receiver. So I understand, Johnny's very astutely pointed out that he's an up and down wide receiver. That's fine for my wide receiver 3. I'll take the up and downness because he'll win me weeks at that position. And then Brandon Cooks is now set up to be the only guy in town in Houston. We don't know what's going to happen with Deshaun Watson, obviously, but this is just, banking on the 130 plus targets that Brandon Cooks should see next year. And then Zach Moss, I think, is another guy that, got injured late last year. Buffalo didn't run very well, but I think that Zach Moss is set up to be, as long as Buffalo doesn't do anything in the draft, like draft one of the younger running backs high, I think Zach Moss could set up to be the actually all-around back in Buffalo. And if they commit to running more to try and help Josh Allen out, I think that it could be valuable, especially in the 9th round. Wanted Ryan Tannehill. But he did not make it a couple more picks to me there. I thought that was a great pick by Jay Blizzy. So I went with Matt Stafford. I was between Matt Stafford, Carson Wentz, and Cam Newton here. And I just wanted to point this out in the grades or in this time. Matt Stafford just seemed to be the guy surrounded by the most weapons of those three. And so I wanted to go with Matt Stafford, who's been known to air it out in his career, had the most weapons, and now is paired with the best play caller he's ever been with in Sean McVay. So I'm really excited about what the Rams can do with Matt Stafford there. And then Daryl Henderson, I think this is a value to pick up Henderson here in the 11th. I just like, stacking guys in ambiguous backfields. I know we think it's Cam Akers. It probably should be Cam Akers. But should something happen, Daryl Henderson, I think, is a good pickup. Jalen Reagor and then Noah Fant in the 13th. I thought that once again was great value to get a guy that, nearly broke out last year in really weird QB situation for Denver all year. So, yep, that's my team. I think it, not the sexiest team, but I think it's got some potential here for sure.
And I definitely like that upside there, like with Zach Moss and Daryl Henderson, these late round running backs that you got, which could be real players or also like easily droppable guys, which is my preference. I don't want guys that are like guys you feel bad about dropping and don't feel good about starting. Those are like
you should know by like
favorite.
Week 3 or 4,
Exactly.
like if you're good to cut the ties with them for sure.
Like just like as a general statement, my least favorite fantasy players are the guys that I am not excited about starting and I don't like dropping. It's just like this. It's like this constipation. You're just like, oh, it's the worst. So I like how you put that up there.
I have officially lost my draft appetite, ladies and gentlemen. What you just bared to witness was Big Travis. He just said Sean McVay was the best OC that Matthew Stafford has ever had, and he failed to realize and give proper dues to Jim Bob Cooter. Okay,
now
so
wait,
how
I didn't
dare
say.
you? Yeah,
I didn't say the best. I didn't say the best named. I said the best play caller. I didn't say he was the best name. Now, Jim Bob Cooter did have the best name in all of coordinator history, but I will not give him the best play caller ability over Sean McVay.
Dude, I am so excited to see Matt Stafford out of Detroit. Like Matt Stafford is so much better than people realize. Detroit is so much worse, a place, a black hole, a quicksand trap that people also realize. Tampa Bay's won more or the same amount of NFC North titles as Detroit has. Like Tampa Bay, like come the frick on. I can't wait to see what Matt Stafford is able to do in anywhere but Detroit.
Me too, man. Stoked on that. All right, Johnny, bring us home here.
I mean, I was going to ask Austin how he really felt, but I'll talk about my
team. I think
Adam
Gase would be an improvement over Detroit. That's what I think about Detroit.
Unbelievable.
Just the mystique of Detroit. I would actually, dude. I could agree with that just because Adam
how can you put that on there? Don't put that juju on Detroit. Don't put that juju on Detroit. That's cold.
Detroit is a whole entity. It's a whole dark cloud.
Dude, TJ Hawkinson's in that. TJ Hawkinson and my boy Swift, DeAndre Swift is in there.
I feel awful for Matt Stafford.
Hey, they're going to turn that around.
Galladay got out.
He's gone.
Megatron left when he could have played. Like people just leave.
Barry Sanders retired early.
It's got evil energy, Johnny. It's haunted. It's gross. Where people go to have their bone marrow leave their body.
We can hope that they can turn it around. We can hope that they can turn it around. Just like I hope that I would turn around the back half of this draft after a solid start. But it did not. I don't know. It was okay. I was picking from the 103 spot. Christian McCaffrey fell to me. I was A-okay with that. I'll take him gladly. And then I took A.J. Brown in the second round. So this was a little bit, I'll be honest, it was nice having the computer there because I could manipulate those picks because I know that the computer's just going to take like one of the top few selections of each position. So I kind of took advantage of that. And I knew that I wanted Antonio Gibson, and I was thinking about taking him in the second. But I knew I could wait. So I took A.J. Brown, got that target monster. Then and kind of wide receiver anchor. And then I went Antonio Gibson, then Najee Harris in the fourth. I felt like there was kind of a bigger cliff that fell off on running backs after that. So I wanted to make sure I could round up that group of running backs. And then I grabbed Terry McLaurin in the fifth and Robert Woods in the sixth. I loved having those two wide receivers as my second and third because they both show potential to be top 10 wide receivers in this league, as well as having a pretty safe floor of wide receiver twos. And I'm really loving that Scary Terry got the Fitz magic magic in town. So I think that he could have a dynamite season. And then Chase Edmonds is a guy, his ADP still adjusted now. Again, what they do in the draft is going to be a huge part. And then I expect after that, we were talking, Austin was asking the question about running back or values that we could. I think Chase Edmonds that we're going to see a lot coming over the next, depending on what they do in the draft. And now to be the starting running back. And then TJ Hawkinson in the 8th, despite their juju that they put on Detroit. I like Hawkinson. And this is where my draft messed up because Devontae Parker, I love Devontae Parker. I think good wide receiver, but my wide receivers were kind of set right then. I should have went with Hurts or Tom. I was looking at one of the guys, but I was trying, stick to what I was saying in the beginning of the show of looking out on quarterback, and I could get a little bit sneakier. What's that whole got two britches? Is that the saying? That's what happened in this draft because I waited. And then what happened? They both got taken. So as a result, I had to take Zack Wilson, Tua Tagovailoa, and Cam Newton as my trio of quarterbacks. It could be a little struggle there. And then I grabbed Tony Pollard in the 13th. I think it was an okay draft up until the quarterback. So then I kind of screwed. But
what's that song?
I like the first half of my draft.
What's that song that's been on the TikTok trend and people are remembering those cringe moments in their past? And it's like, it's gonna get better. I swear it gets better. You know what I'm talking about? When I see your 3 quarterbacks, Johnny, I'm not gonna lie. That song just played in my mind when that went off. I'm a little scared of the upside here. I'm a little scared on the upside.
I remember we got to round 13 and I was looking at your trio there and I'm like, okay, well, who was his first quarterback? And I looked up and I just couldn't find that first quarterback. That was your 3. And I was just like, oh, okay. But you're going to
have Tom Brady. If I have Tom Brady and then Tua, my quarterback situation is, or if I have Jalen Hurts and Tua, my quarterback situation is great. But right now it is struggling, and I need my boy Zack Wilson to come from, deep.
Dude, but your first 6 rounds here, I think you just really did such a great job of playing the upside, and the floor is phenomenal there as well. Najee Harris is your biggest wild card, but you knew that coming in. Christian McCaffrey, AJ Brown, and Antonio Gibson is such a stacked big 3. All of those guys top 5 potential. And then Terry McLaurin, like you said, with Fitzmagic coming in. Robert Woods, just Mr. Outperforms his ADP every single year, always. And he's 28 right now. Dealing with Matt Stafford should be coming in. I don't hate this, but the quarterback one does give me a little bit of pause. But TJ Hawkinson, not a bad draft.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. The Cat's Pajamas. Who wants to take them?
I'll jump in.
Austin, you want to jump in?
Yeah, my favorite team name all time. The Cat's Pajamas started off with Alvin Kamara at the 4 spot. We heard from stepmom Lauren last week. That's her 1-1 selection. Can't go wrong with Alvin Kamara. DK Metcalf in the 2nd round. That's a fun stack, and I think going out with Alvin Kamara, DK Metcalf after a game would be a fun time as well. CEH in the 3rd. I'm a big CEH fan this year. I think he's going to take a big jump up from the development side, and he still plays for the best offense in the NFL. I like that pick a lot there, especially in the 3rd. Ooh, Kyler Murray and Russell Wilson. Shorty McQuicksters that he's got as his quarterbacks. That's a fun duo right there. Kyler Murray and Russell Wilson, both out of the NFC West. Both undersized, overperforming dudes. I think you're going to be happy with that selection. Raheem Mostert, for all the time he was in as the 49ers lead back, did really well. I'm a big fan of Deontay Johnson this year also. I think he's going to step up and solidify his number 1 spot on that team. Damian Harris is a fallback halfback. It's not bad, especially with how thin halfback was getting. He will be able to plug into a flex spot for you. Marquis Brown, it's still in a boom or bust situation. We still expect him to get better, but I think a lot of us are starting to ask is, what's the deal going on in Baltimore? You heard Des Bryant say, I was a part of that team. I can tell you the wide receivers are a situation, or that's what he alluded to, that there's more issues going on over there. then meets the eye. So maybe Marquis Brown is going to pop off. Maybe Marquis Brown is just not the answer. Maybe Lamar Jackson's the problem. Who knows? We'll find out. More information helps us come up with more conclusions. Joe Burrow is his third quarterback here. I really like that, actually. His third one. Deebo Samuel, Corey Davis, Tyler Higbee. I like this team in the Cat's pajamas. I look at his starters of Alvin Kamara, CEH, good. I look at his starters from the wide receiver spot of DK Metcalf, Deontay Johnson, and then Marquise Brown or Deebo Samuel or Corey Davis. It's not bad. It gets a little slower on the end, but it's not bad. Kyler Murray and Russell Wilson are great options. And Tyler Higbee's okay. It's fine. I think this is a pretty good team. I think it's got some room for improvement, but I would expect this team to probably compete for a playoff spot. I'd give this team a B.
Yeah, I think the quarterbacks stack with the upside of CEH, Alvin Kamara, and DK like that. Those first 5 picks are ridiculously high upside. Like that team could just wreck you on the quarterback duo alone, and then you've got some great upside with Kamara and Metcalf. And then if CEH can bounce back, I love the B grade here. I think that's the right spot. The bench could do a little bit better, but that's all right. He can start a great team here.
That's a good one.
All right, I'll go with the fantasy football therapist. Just want to thank him again. He's always been in these drafts with us, especially we started doing this in February, man. He's been in there with a lot of Whisper Nation just helping us out. Appreciate that. Got Jonathan Taylor at the 1-5. We talked about the excitement of Jonathan Taylor. Another second-year guy in Cam Akers with the second round. Then Stephon Diggs and Keenan Allen. Love those 2 wide receivers. Darren Waller in the 5th. T. Higgins, super excited about another year with Joe Burrow with T. Higgins and no more A.J. Green. So what kind of vacated targets that could mean for T. Higgins and volume there. Justin Herbert is his first quarterback. Then CeeDee Lamb, the bane of Johnny's existence in this draft has been CeeDee Lamb being taken right there before him. Tom Brady, also another one that Johnny probably wishes he had. Mike Davis, A.J. Dillon, Gus Edwards, and J.D. McKissick. I love the 10, 11, and 12 picks here for a team just trying to stack some lottery tickets at running back. Mike Davis, vastly underrated running back here in the NFL, always just has been, gotten the job done. A.J. Dillon, should anything happen to Aaron Jones, and then Gus Edwards, who is just another underrated guy. So for me, this is another B team. I don't mean to just copy the grade here from Austin, but I think this team is well put together from top to bottom. I don't have anything that really scares me. Maybe the quarterback position, you could be a little bit scared of Justin Herbert taking a step back, but Tom Brady's consistency at the end of the year, especially the way he picked it up with that team and then another year under his belt to do it, I'm not going to doubt Tom Brady ever again. I would stop doing that a couple years ago. So I like this team. I think it's a B squad. I think Fantasy Football Therapist does what he does.
Yep. All right. I will take Primetime Mock here, drafting at the 107 spot. Travis, you gave the grade, right?
Yeah, that's
okay. Devontae Adams with the 107. Asked Travis if you would have taken Devontae Adams or Ezekiel Elliot. He refused to answer. Maybe on another mock we'll find out. But and then on this one we got J.K. Dobbins, second round. Then you took Justin Jefferson in the third round. I like that value a lot. Chris Godwin in the 4th. DJ Moore in the 5th. Then back-to-back quarterbacks here in the 6th and 7th with Aaron Rodgers and Matt Ryan. And then in the 8th, Devin Singletary, followed by Dallas Goedert in 9th, tight end spot there. It'll be interesting to see what happens there. It's kind of holding up Goddard's value with Zach Ertz still on the roster and question marks there. But then we have Carson in the 10th spot. 10th round. And then Trey Sermon, Michael Carter, and Salvin Ahmed in the 13th. So we had a couple of rookie running backs. Not sure those guys are going to land. And then Miami running back. Overall, I love the wide receivers here. I think the quarterback's pretty solid. I even think the tight end's pretty solid. There's some upside there. I am very worried about these running backs. Devin Singletary, honestly, I hope I don't offend anybody with this, but I'm gonna say I feel like Devin Singletary right now is like the Titanic, bro. Like it's going down, and you guys got to get on one of those life support boats and row away from that boat because I don't think I don't know how much longer he has for the Bills. So it concerns me that that's his RB2. I'm concerned that J.K. Dobbins is his RB1. I think that J.K. Dobbins get a little bit too much hype in this offseason, and what his true potential is, I think, is a little bit more capped than people think it is with Lamar there. And then also with them bringing back Gus Edwards. So my big question mark would be at the running back position. Overall, I would give this, I think, a B plus, though. I know a B. I'd give it a B.
Yeah, I'm concerned about those running backs there too. With just there's not one mainstay. Love what J.K. Dobbins is about, but as Travis put, with Gus Edwards still over there and the play style of the Baltimore Ravens and John Harbaugh, I'm a little concerned about the volume that's coming towards the running back position. And then the quarterback position, love Aaron Rodgers, not in love with Matt Ryan or Carson Wentz this year, and not in love with where they selected them either.
And Dallas Goedert, I love the upside. I love the specimen. I love that Ertz is likely out of there, or Ertz is gone. But I think that we need to understand if Jalen Hurts is going to feed the ball to Dallas Goedert, if that's going to be a guy he goes to, So we don't really know that. There's a bit of an unknown there. I think this team is actually more of a C for me. The wide receivers are stacked. I love them. But I don't know if the running backs are going to be enough to carry you through. And then, as Austin said, it's Aaron Rodgers and kind of everybody else. Maybe he'll mix and match Ryan and Wentz when to start them. But I think the running back depth just scares the hell out of me on this team for sure.
Let me leave you guys with this one question. If he takes Nick Chubb instead of Devontae Adams in the first round, what would you give it then?
Yeah, I think it's closer to a B than for me, obviously, because then you can start both Dobbins and Chubb.
And Nick Chubb, and that's
you've got the wide receivers. Not saying your team doesn't need Devontae Adams, but in that case, it would probably wouldn't. So, yeah.
Then you're not benching DJ Moore because you're benching one of these guys right now as is. So, yeah. And that's a great part of mocking around, right? Is you get to see sometimes of where just those rosterable positions end up stacking. And you want to go with value, but you also got to start a full roster.
Yep.
So
Austin Blizzy, Whisper Nation champ coming in, has had a lot of impressive drafts. Let's go ahead and break this one down. At the 11th spot, he took Aaron Jones. Can't go wrong with Aaron Jones. Talented man, got his role on the team, just inked him up to 4 more years. Josh Allen as the second quarterback off the board there. He took in the second round. Like Josh Allen, don't love the spot you selected him, but it's not my team. Calvin Ridley was in the third as your number 1 wide receiver. Then Kareem Hunt is your number 2 running back. Deshaun Watson there in the 5th. We'll see what happens to his life. Brandon Ayuk, Will Fuller, and Tyler Boyd there, 6th, 7th, and 8th round for your 2nd, 3rd, and 4th wide receivers. Good ones there. Ryan Tannehill is your 3rd quarterback. Safe play there. Chase Claypool, 2nd-year Pittsburgh wide receiver. And Nyheim Hines and Jordan Howard is a little bit more depth, and Jared Cook as your tight end there in the 13th. Jay Blizzy is one of the best drafters that we have in Whisper Nation, and he won our Whisper Nation League, and he experiments with a lot of teams. That's my way of prepping my harsher grade, because I don't think this is just one of the best drafts he's taken on. He did auto-pick, though, through it, so that might have something to do with it. And when I break it down and look at the starting running backs, Aaron Jones, and it's great. Kareem Hunt, though, it's not a starting running back. And that's your number 2. You got to be playing him. I don't hate starting Kareem Hunt, but I would much like him to be my 3rd or an option I have to kind of plug in. And if he's not, if somebody I have to start, I would want to make sure the rest of my team is really stacked, and I'm just not convinced that this team is. The quarterback spots, we have Josh Allen, really good, and Deshaun Watson, it's good, but the value that you took him there in the 2nd and 5th rounds is really high. When there were other players available, or maybe you could have chilled out on him just a little bit. And then Calvin Ridley, I like what he's about. As your wide receiver 1, again, it's just not as shiny to overcome some of the other areas that are a little down. Brandon Ayuk, I like him a lot. It's your 2nd wide receiver again. It's asking a lot of the 2nd-year wide receiver. Will Fuller is going to be suspended, playing for a new team. Tyler Boyd, I think he's pretty solid, and A.J. Green is gone. I think you'll like him, but I just don't think he's got the makeup, the ability to be as impressive a wide receiver as you would need to tilt games for you. And I could be off on that. I could eat those words on Tyler Boyd. Coming in, he's 26 years old. This will be his 6th year coming in. I think he's a really good player. I don't know if he's a game changer for you. And Ryan Tannehill is your 3rd quarterback, though. Nice safe plays there. And Chase Claypool, I like the pop he brings. Nyheim Hines,
you're going to need a flex maybe. Jordan Howard, we all need someone to drop. And then Jared Cook, not a bad starting tight end there for you. That Hunter Henry's gone.
Dang,
C+. C+.
Yeah, I can't.
Oh, man.
You took him to the shop there. I can't say anything that's going to change anybody's mind here on the team. I think, but you said it very right. Like, this is what Jay Blizzy does. He also said that he auto picked on the last 2 picks, and he thanked us for hosting in the sleeper chat and said that pretend that he took Logan Thomas somewhere in there. That's what he wanted us a little grace pick. So I don't know if that would have changed the whole trajectory of the team there, Jay Blizzy, but we'll go ahead and give you the Logan Thomas pick in there. But yeah, I thought Austin had it well put there.
Yep.
We did it.
We did it, boys.
We did it.
Mock draft in the bag. If you're listening along, if you're catching us on Twitter, on YouTube, on Facebook, go ahead and like and subscribe, and make sure you follow us on Twitter so that you can catch that link to our mock draft coming and join with us next week. We do this every Monday. We'd love to have you drafting along with us. Thanks for everybody who did join along. It was fun as always. Johnny Game Time Hicks, Big Travie. Final thoughts? Anyone got them?
No,
I'm
That's
good.
awesome.
I got nothing.
Leave us with the final thoughts.
I love you all, and there's not a single thing you can do about it. Guys, on behalf of the Fantasy Whispers, we're out.
Peace.
Thank you for listening to the Fantasy Whisperers podcast. You can hear more from John and Travis on Google Play, SoundCloud, and iTunes. You can also follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at TF Whispers.